Hey, what's up, Soul Warriors? Welcome to this Saturday Night Soul Session live with me, Reverend LC, and you. I am so honored for this to be the first solo recovery soul food live in the Recovery Revolution Facebook page. And it is in honor of that I actually was inspired to do this video the way it's going to be. And it's actually going to be a 3-part series. And I thought, a lot of the people that have been with me for this long time have heard my story. They kind of know, where I came from and how much I love what I do and how much I love humanity as a whole, and especially the recovery community. And we can't get there without active addiction. And so I just want people to know that, I love human beings because they are all a part of me. We are all part of each other, and there's so much that's entwined with this, recovery and addiction, whole process of healing that is being positioned to help humanity heal as we continue to move forward, because it's a trying time, and the likelihood that most things that are in a stage of growth, just like us, sometimes become outwardly looking worse, than before they get better. And, what we know in recovery is how to face chaos, how to face adversity, how to face and move through, pretty much everything that comes at us. And so that's why we are being positioned to be in such great help and great need here. Marcus Aurelius says, what stands in the way becomes the way. And that's exactly what this 3-part series is going to be about. And if you come out, and when you come out on the other side of this series, then I believe you will be empowered. I believe that you will clearly understand this statement in such a much deeper level, because we have to learn how to honor and love our message. And to do that, we have to get to the place where we love our mess, where we go from hating ourselves and everything we are because we're out of control and living within the control of this thing that gets us, this feeling of a deeper void within us. It doesn't matter here at Recovery Soul Food where you have faced addiction in your life. Addiction is anything that takes full control of your life, that you can give nothing else but to that thing. That's what it is. So it doesn't matter if it's habit or substance or belief systems or whatever it is. All of those things are driving our lives, and they can bring us to a place of shame and guilt and all of those things. And from there's so much darkness. But when you can come to these places and these different levels in recovery, and that's what we're going to talk about. Level 1, my level 1, coming from active addiction into recovery in those first, that first year of recovery before I move into that goal-oriented, finding my purpose level 2. So, it gets better and better. I do want to say, though, since I'm going to be telling a lot of my story, there may be some triggering language, and some of these stories may be triggering to you. As much as you are safe, okay, as much as you feel safe and secure, I invite you to sit with those things to an extent that you can understand that sometimes when there's something we don't fully understand, we shut down. Our brain says, nope, that's not safe for us. We're going to shut down. And you may be tempted to click off. And how many times have we done that in our lives, and we've missed something truly great? The next thing that you may hear through that uncomfortableness may be the breakthrough that you're looking for. What makes us uncomfortable makes us grow. And we spend so much of our time chasing whatever it is that takes control of us. We spend so much time chasing that. And that we don't even realize we're running away from ourselves, and we're trying to quickly stop the pain. But in recovery, the only way that we grow is by getting out of our comfort zones. And so I just wanted to give you that warning. And listen, if you can't sit through it, that's okay too. You know, we all are where we are, and that's amazing. So I just wanted to give that out real quick, and I'm so eager to get started with all of this. And I do want to say a few things first, because I love to support the recovery community. I love to give you things that I know will just enhance your life. So there is an amazing event coming up called Comedy for a Cause. It is in Bristol, Connecticut. It is on October the 7th, in fact, and the doors open at 6 o'clock. This is presented by New Horizons Living Center and Blue Boy Entertainment. You know, you can go for the laughs and you can stay for the transformation. Advance tickets are $25 and they are $35 at the door. If you want tickets, then make sure that you contact my good friend Lori Anderson for tickets on Instagram at Lars_Sober World. You can get those from her. She's a beautiful human being anyway. Her podcast, Lars Sober World, is amazing, and I love her as a human being. Right now, I am reading Pamela Topchian's book, I Didn't Come This Far to Only Come This Far, an amazing comeback story. Pamela Topchian is such an amazing ally in every community that I am involved in. She is an amazing human being, and that book she's made under $10, so you can start to get some amazing inspiration in your life right now for under $10. I love Pamela. She's amazing. Stick around to the end of the video, because Pamela has a free gift for the Recovery Soul Food community and now the Recovery Revolution Live community, and you got to stick around to the end to get that. But I'm telling you, you don't want to go anywhere. It's such a gift to our amazing community. Also, I'm reading An Arsenal of Gratitude, and this is Remy Stoak's book. And let me tell you something. If you are in any type of early recovery, or even the awakening process that everybody's talking about that happens in recovery, if you are there too, let me tell you something. Gratitude changed my life. And this is one of the best, easy to read and follow. It's almost like a guidebook through a gratitude practice. Remy Stoak was a childhood cancer survivor. He is a real life recovery warrior, and he talks about how gratitude, the grit of gratitude, helped him through all of that and to live the life that he loves. And so I ask you to make sure that you guys get those things. Let's support each other, you know, and let's get content now that just nourishes our souls. I mean, we know what it's like to run in chaos. We know what it's like to wait on somebody else's time. We know what it's like to be completely out of control of our own lives. And so my name is Reverend L.C. Currie, and I am so grateful and honored to be here with you tonight. And so I want to get into this Saturday Night Soul Session live with me, Reverend L.C. Who is this guy? And so let's go. All right, what's up, Soul Warriors? Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is part one, the beginning. Who is this guy? One of the most amazing things that kicked this off is when I had the honor to have the Recovery Revolution Live whole 4-person team on my show last week. We went live right here in Recovery Revolution on their Facebook page, and I kept seeing this comment that said, who is this guy? Who is this guy? And I thought, you know, it would be an honor for me to walk down that road again, you know, in early recovery, and also I guess in that level to that purpose awakening time of recovery, we begin to share our stories a lot, and we begin to tell a lot of things about ourselves. And as we go along in recovery, and we go through some different healing things, we start to shift and change even more. Recovery is a never-ending process. It's a beautiful and amazing process of constantly and consistently becoming your highest and best self. I mean, that's what it is for me, and I think that that's what's really happening in the world. That we're stepping away from that old space of just white knuckle and struggle through. I always called that in my life my clean and sober phase, where I was just trying to, avoid the habit and, try to regain control by wrestling this monster like fist to fist. And so I never did any deeper healing. When I had this 9-month relapse, though, 9 years ago, I had the amazing opportunity to go through both of those things. To have gotten really to clean and sober, done all the right things, life doing what it's supposed to do, moving along, and then hit something and went into that relapse. I had that perspective to say, oh, wait a minute, something different has to happen at this point. Like, I cannot do this, just jump back on the wagon and nothing else. And for some reason, I had this divine intuitive message within me that expressly said this: I had to work on my head and my heart. I knew just from the years of bumping up against this and being so out of control and honestly having nothing left, because after 22 years of active addiction, you have nothing left, and barely anyone, if anyone. I was blessed enough to have someone left in my life and has been with me through it all. But I had built some things that just, gave me that perspective. And so I knew I had to work on my head and my heart. I knew by that time that, I knew what I needed to do for me. At the time, well, let's just rewind this, because I put up a post the other day on Instagram, and it probably went to Facebook too, that was basically just about the then and me, like the message, the mess to message, and inside of that post and that video, it talked about how our deeper beliefs about ourselves manifest in our lives over and over and over again. So I think to properly do this right, I need to tell you why I'm using Jonathan England's book. He was a guest a couple times ago on the RecoverySoulfd podcast. I urge you to watch that as well, just to know more. But I found his book, If I Die Before I Wake. It was a free download. I have no earthly idea how I found it, how it got to me, but it did. And it came in a time in my life when I was shifting between that first level and second level of recovery into like this third level of recovery. And so his book, If I Die Before I Wake, it's free. You can download it. You can read it. You can listen to it on YouTube. It's about the 5 levels of consciousness. And as I looked at these 5 levels of consciousness, I said to myself, these are the 5 levels of recovery. Like, this awakening process is the recovery process. And I was, after reading this book, and then now I cheat and I just listen to it. But after reading this book the first time, it opened my eyes so much and gave me so much clarity as to what was happening in my life, because it looked like everything was falling apart. And then all of a sudden, this resource came into my life, and it just kind of put the pieces together and gave me that thing that we all know we need, which is a spark of hope. If you can just get a spark of light in a dark place, you can see, even if briefly, that there are opportunities. When you're in the dark, you see nothing but the dark. And it's these little happenings and these resources and these people that come into our lives on a daily basis, that just the right place, just the right time to give that spark. And you just need enough to see that there's something beyond this darkness. And that's what this book did for me. So, I urge you to download it. Like I said, it's free. You can listen to it on YouTube. But getting that clarity helped me so much. And so I wanted to do this. When I'm going to tell my story, it kind of goes back and forth with this book. It gives some explanation of that. And to know any of us, we have to start at the very beginning. So at the very beginning, I'm talking about, we go back to our ages 0 to 7. For it is in these years of our lives, and it's so hard to think back that far, but it is in these years of our lives that we begin to build the foundations and the belief systems that will completely run our lives until we become aware of them. Now, this is where addictions are born. This is where patterns of attachment are born. This is where the type of relationships that we look for are born. I mean, this is where our money management is born. I mean, this is where it's born. And it just stays with us, and we continue to only see as we perceive. And so my life started like so many of probably yours did. I started out, well, number one, in the beginning, I was the mistake. Born to two teenagers in the deep South in 1974, and they were forced to get married because there's that thing of, we have to live up to what society standards are versus what feels right for us. Both of them didn't even know each other. This was a high school fling. They didn't know each other. Now they're walking down the aisle with this child. This child comes, and they're still kids, and now there's all this resentment, and it begins to be placed right here on this human being. And in that very time, you already, as you hear the words, well, you were a mistake, not even maliciously, in a joking manner, not knowing any better or anything, when you hear that and you start to believe that and you feel that resentment, that starts to build a foundation. And for me, that foundation just truly was that I was resented. I was useless. I was unwanted. Therefore, I was unsafe. And throughout this life, we soon meet up with, all of this, like stuff, these marriages, my mom trying to now, gain the approval of her parents, which we always do, to gain their approval so she continues to get married. And she didn't have this great taste, like that these people that wanted to harm her and us were attracted to her, because that's what we are, that's what we put out, that's what has to come back. And so that was happening. So there was a bunch of different abuse that began. And before that abuse, when I was 4 years old, distinctively, I also realized that I was very different on the inside. Very different. That my outside did not present as my inside. And this became like all of a sudden something I knew was confusing and that I couldn't tell anyone about. And then a year later, I began to be sexually abused by another one of her husbands. And so this just continued, in these secrets that we have in our lives, these traumas, they meld together, and they start making these belief systems that form in us. And there's so many. I always equate things, and I'm going to sound like a hippie right now, and it's okay, but I always equate things that are solid in our lives to trees. That all of that belief system is the root. I'm unworthy, I'm unwanted, is the root. But the branches come off in places like, I don't know how to get love, or I have to be a certain way in order to be seen. Those things go out, that I'm a shameful human being. Everyone can see my secret. Everyone knows what happens. And what happened is I started to now attract this in every human being. So it was like every now, male, except for like my grandfather and my real father, everyone, like came towards me to abuse me in that way. And so that reiterated that branch of, there's something wrong with me. Something's wrong with me, like something's very wrong. And I thought that realization when I was 4, I was getting punishment now for being different in that way, for having these, questions of gender and stuff. And so I felt like I was being punished. And so these things just continue on through life, to where these abusive situations keep trying to come back and keep, rolling on. And I say that my first addiction was probably food, because I remember being young, 5 and 6 years old. I was a child when this started, and children try to reason things out. And I thought, well, if I gain weight, because I knew what was happening was, something, not for kids, right? And so I thought it was about attraction. And so I thought, oh, well, if I gain weight, then, maybe it'll stop. And also, it was my first dopamine hit, realizing, putting together this very innocent connection that, oh, food also makes me feel good. And so that became my life. So then I became this overweight, abused human being that was very, small within their own skin. And, when you go through the world like that, then you do become victimized, because it is what your whole protection system is saying. And we usually go one of two ways. Either we go full out, tough exterior, just gonna fight, or we shrink back and we go, look, if you don't notice me, you can't hurt me. That kind of a situation. And that's kind of how I grew up. And also the pawn within this dynamic between my mother and her parents, where, each one is trying to pull loyalty from me, and each one, and so all of this stuff is happening. And so those feelings and beliefs, those branches of unworthy, too strange, if anyone really knows me, if I ever let anything like this out, people will leave because they'll think I'm dirty or awful or strange. So you just keep that tucked away. And at 11, I found alcohol. And when I found the alcohol, it was a much quicker and much easier way to fill the void. Food was fine, but it didn't give anything like the alcohol. And once again, there's a connection made right there that, oh, I can fill the void quickly with this. And so it became this habit with me that was an every weekend kind of a thing. It also filled this place where, when I was with my real father, who I didn't meet till I was 8, there's that unwanted thing again, right? When I met him, he was a drinker and thought that I was cooler somehow when I drank with him. And so this also, solidified everything I was needing at the time. Alcohol gets me closer to my dad, gets me time to spend with my dad, because when they're drunk and I'm drunk, I'm funny. So they laugh and they want me around, and so I get to feel wanted. And so, it fulfilled all these things. Remind me, I'm 11. So I'm still a child. There's only so much, perception I can have, but these things are clicking and working. And so this would continue to be like this struggle, this binge drinking every single weekend. Move on up, and I start to try harder drugs. I was a human being that if you had a quick route out of hell, I wanted to take it. But I wasn't able to see that this quick road was not really a road out of hell. It was actually deeper in, with pretty lights and pretty signs, and said, here, it's very inviting. And so this is where, I spent the majority of my life. And that's what, Jonathan's book talks about. When he talks about those 5 levels of consciousness, that first level is a level of disorientation. The level where all you really can see is life happening to you. And we get in that consciousness because that is usually what is being built within that 0 to 7 years. If you experience any type of childhood abuse in those years, regardless of what it may be, whatever the trauma is in those years, has built, this belief system within you. And so now, this is bringing itself back within your life. So it's showing us, our brain was made to recognize what we know. And so our perception truly affects our reality. Our perception, how we see what's happening around us, is how we experience it. Have you ever gotten mad at someone for saying something that you find out later that's not even what they meant? You might have been angry, or they might have said it in some way or whatever, and you find out, oh, well, that's not what they meant at all. And yet you've been angry or mad about this thing. Maybe it's severed a friendship or something, and you find out years later that wasn't even the case. It's kind of like the awakening of recovery to me. It is coming into this level of recovery that says, go deeper. I get to have some type of control over my perception. You mean I get to choose? You mean I get to choose? But in that level 1, that disorientation place within us, we don't know that's an option. I mean, we live every single day in active addiction, purely just beaten down. Especially once you get some real time in there, you are so beaten down. And we see that as our lowest moment ever. But if we shift our perception just a slight tiny bit, also right there, there's the perception of, this is the greatest moment of my life. Because I can't go down any further than this. So I got to figure out how to get up. That's why I constantly use the phrase, get up from your give up and create a life you love. Because that's the only way to get up. Nobody can really pull us up. We got to decide to get up. And in that phase of victimize, of seeing the world, against us, or saying things like, well, this is just the hand I was dealt. I used to say things like that all the time. And, I would just play it. But the honest truth was, that was exactly the only way I could perceive anything was from the eyes of a victim. And it's not our fault what people do to us. It's not even our fault that we have these belief systems and we go through our life. That was another beautiful thing that, getting to this hard rock bottom of that 9-month relapse did for me, to wake up and to be able to step into that head and heart journey, that recovery journey. It gave me this, again, there's the spark. It gave me this hope in this darkness that there was a possibility that I could not give my power away to all of these things that I had felt victimized for so long. For so long. And it's not about relieving the guilt of the people that have harmed you. It's not about releasing them. It was really about releasing me. It was like these things that we hold to, and I had truly, guys, anybody that knows me, I'm just going to make this interruption right now. Anybody that knows me knows that even if I come here with a plan, a lot of times that things just kind of move in their own way, and I believe that's because so many different of you have shown up with your life and things that are happening for you that I feel like it speaks to my spirit. So I just kind of always make it a point to just try to be an open vessel for whatever needs to be said. So if it sounds like things are jumping, I'm just speaking to you like straight from the heart. And so there will probably be not a lot of structure, but I hope it will make sense and help you in your life. Because I think if you showed up, there's likely something here for you. If you've stayed this long, you either really love me and I appreciate you, or there might be something here for you to hear. So I just wanted to make that public service announcement. Those of you I know who know me already are chuckling and laughing right now. I already know, because y'all know. So where was I? Spark of hope. Spark of hope. That trip, that that time of living in that space of just trying to be clean and sober, seems like you're just walking around this big open wound, and you're almost trying to just cover it with your arms. You know what I mean? Like it's not healing. It's just getting worse and worse and worse. But you are now just fighting back the need to cope in the way that you've been coping for years, in the way that boom, you're coped. There's no work we think there's no work involved because it's not the kind of work we call work, but there's actually a lot of work involved. But that work seems easier than doing like the healing work, and often it's also more readily available, and in that time of just trying to hold that back, that became in my life some of the most hopeless days that I had ever had. And so relapse just happened to me over and over and over again. And nobody was talking like this. Nobody was talking about recovery in the way that we're talking about it now. Congratulations. Oh, I honor all of you for sharing. But they weren't talking about recovery in this way. It was the old adage. You get on the wagon, you stay on the wagon, you do what it takes, and you just get through it. And it was not a very good life for me. And even when I was on different MAT programs that also were not interested in healing, and we're changing that too, just hold on. I mean, at least with MAT, you're alive to see tomorrow. That's all I can say. That the awakening's coming, and you will get it, but you got to stay alive to get it. That's my other public service announcement. See, I don't care here whether you're still in active addiction, whether you're in your first 30 minutes, 30 days, or 30 years. It is never too early in recovery to start hearing about the possibility of healing. That first year and two is going to be a lot of white knuckling anyway. But when you're working through that healing, your life begins to change. And there is amazing perception changes that go along with that. So wherever you are in the journey, please be alive tomorrow to continue. As long as you continue moving forward, you get to where you're going. And the only time that you don't, even if you stop, the only time you don't get where you're going is if you just quit trying. And I know it's hard. I know. I remember the days of white knuckling. I have some days now of white knuckling through emotional stuff, but I'm so grateful not to be white knuckling, not to reach out for substance. And I do that with intention on every single day. I make sure that I still practice 9 years later, practices that are right for me. You know what I mean? Like your recovery is your recovery. Just be about it, So if we lie to somebody else, here's the honest truth. We lie to somebody else about being in recovery, or, not having that, that fall or that stumble or whatever. If we lie to somebody else, we're not really lying to them. We're lying to ourselves. And what that does is that creates another little loop of guilt, creates another little loop of shame. And to me, that shame is far worse. That self-shame is far worse than what someone else could give you, even if they disapproved of you for telling the truth. It's that inside shame that always, the monster grows so much bigger. What we think is going to happen is generally so much worse than what actually happens. And so, I just say that, forget everybody else and what they think. This is your life. And if tonight's the night that you get the awakening truth to the fact that this is your life and you can create the kind that you want from wherever you are, if this is when you get it, amazing. Because this is the only life we get. And we lose so many people every single day to this. And it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. Because I know what it's like to be that human being that feels hopeless. That feels like I've been so successful at being nothing but an incorrigible addict my whole life. How will I ever turn this around? What will I ever do from here? There's just no possibilities. And we fight for that limitation over and over. We fight to stay small. And yet recovery shows us that there is a whole big world of possibilities available to us. And so it really doesn't matter where you start or how you started. You know, we have the ability to create the life that we want. Now, I'm not saying that to you in a way that about physical things, because as you go through the levels of recovery, you're going to start to realize how little physical things mean anyway. That the heaven and the peace and the place, you know, of amazingness happens when we get to the place of knowing that we stand strong in the face of adversity, that we know how to face adversity as an opportunity and not just a wall of opposition. And so I will repeat what I said, you know, before. The only way you can't get here is if you stop trying to come. It doesn't matter how big your steps are. It doesn't even matter how long it takes you. If you continue to move forward, you will reach the place that, you know, you will reach the place of just loving your life. You know, keep your daily practices, do the things that start to bring you life, and really work on those deep-rooted, find out what are the deep-rooted belief systems that are driving your life. You know, download that book, listen to that book, see if it speaks to you. I've read it so many times now, it speaks to me in different phases. But get to those roots. Don't be afraid to stare that in the face. Don't be afraid to stare down what has been holding you down for the majority of your life. Stare it down. Have a support system around you. You know, build your tribe of different professionals and whatever it is that you need. Build your own program. And that's a personalized program for you and what you need. And be surrounded by people that are there to help you stay moving and to hold you up in the times where you are digging up those roots. You know, we all know what happens in a garden when it's left unattended. Things grow, but it gets choked up by weeds. And the first things in my first phase of recovery, I mean from making that decision about healing my head and heart, that I had to begin to change was my thinking. I knew my thinking was a problem because I knew that it was my mind that played and played and played and played and played until I went and got high, no matter what. You know, whether my body was sick or not, my mind was always going. My mind was what was replaying all those old thoughts. My mind what was playing the tape that your best time was in your 20s. You're never going to have this time again. This is your life. I mean, just blah, 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 blah. You're never going to be truly happy. You'll never truly get to be yourself. You'll never actually know what it's like to be your full, authentic self in this life. I mean, just over and over and over and over and over. You know, that's what I knew had to change. And I watched some free webinar made by, I can't even believe I'm forgetting his name. Anyway, I'll remember his name. I'll remember his name. But that's what he started talking about. He started really talking about how things truly, truly worked. And how much, you know, my thoughts played into my, you know, what I saw in my life, my perception and everything. And I started this gratitude practice. And he said, you know, write down 10 things. Then he said, if you can't write 10, write 5. And I could only write 1. Because everything that I saw was wrong, eventually I saw as grateful for. See, my family, my wife and my son, I couldn't be grateful for them because I felt like I was failing them. I wasn't giving them the life that I promised, that I put the pressure on myself to give, to make them happy. I wasn't doing that. So I couldn't see them with gratitude. I could only see how I was failing. And so in finding the one, I found this one. I'm grateful there's a roof over our heads. And then I started, right behind spouting behind it the limitations. Even though it's not our roof, even though it's, all of this stuff. But I just kept concentrating on really making myself see how gracious it was for us to have a roof over our heads, what it really could be like. And I really had to sit and put myself in the shoes, back in my own shoes, of when I didn't have that place, when I didn't have them. And for 30 days, I connected with that one thing. That one thing. And little by little, I just started seeing my life in a different way. It becomes so emotional because when I get to do this with you guys, I get to remember back to that time, in that moment where I just had the most amazing breakthrough in my life, where I finally really understood how much my thoughts played a part in my daily experience. And so when I was struggling, I started stopping and taking a look at what I was thinking about. And when I thought that I was at the very beginning of where it started, I went further. Because I realized that relapse, just like recovery, starts long before the using starts or stops. We think our way back into relapse. And if we go back and we look, we will see that weeks and weeks before, or days before, either something happened to trigger and we just couldn't stop the loop, or our minds just brought us back. And it's the same in recovery. Like if you're here and you're still in active addiction, you're starting your process of recovery. Because for you to be here listening to something like this, it's not exciting, I don't have stuff going on, I'm long-winded, For you to be here, it means that process is already beginning for you. And so keep showing up to this, but just remember, you have to be alive tomorrow to come back. And that's all I want to keep saying. We're in a very deadly time, y'all. I mean, for every bit that we give out in hope of recovery, there is an equal, operation on that other side, making things more addictive, more deadly, and it's taking people too soon. It's taking people sometimes in their first time. So I see that as we got to continue to up our game, recovery warriors. We got to continue to be a light in this darkness. We got to keep speaking up. We can't meet effort with effort. We got to come up. We have to make this the recovery revolution. JR was on to something when he did that. We're old hats at this. We've been speaking out on recovery for a long time now, and we've come so far. Like, if nobody's congratulated you today, then let me please be the one to say congratulations. Thank you for working so hard. As you change yourself, you change the world. You don't go outside of you and do something and bring it back and change the world. No, when you change you, you change the world around you, and then that becomes like this sea of change. And it's so desperately needed right now. I ask you, in whatever place you find yourself, in whatever form you may find yourself in fear, because there is a lot of fear being served up right now, I want you to remind yourself that this is the recovery process. That what the world is going through, is the recovery process. And basically, they are coming out of active addiction to ego and the outside blueprint into recovery of self, recovery of soul, recovery of divinity. And we know how to do this. So when you find yourself, being brought to that fear, meet it with, we know how to do this. Glennon Doyle says, you can do hard things. We can do hard things. We just got to stay alive to do it. And so, let that message to you. Because even if you're still in active addiction, you are so vital and important to this entire situation, this entire journey. You are still so vital to it. So we just need you to, come on, just come with us. Just come with us. Any way you can get yourself to a place where you can begin to heal your life, that's where. So be the change. Be the change today. Man, I'm so grateful I got to do this with y'all. This was like such a... this was just an amazing release with you all. I feel so passionate, so on fire for doing this. It reminds me, sometimes I miss Facebook. Facebook was my home. Facebook is where I started. I miss the energy. You guys have to forgive me. I can't see everybody's comments because I'm on StreamYard and I'm streaming to several different places. So I can't see all the comments. But I also don't have a Brett. I need a Brett who's working my comments. I need a Brett. But so guys, forgive me. I know you're used to having people answer you, and when I used to do Facebook Lives, I was constantly there to speak to you all as well. So I just wanted you to know that I'm not ignoring your comments. I see them, and I can't wait to really read them. I see some friends here. I love you all so much. Everybody who supported me, y'all can't imagine. Y'all can't imagine how blessed and honored I feel just to get to sit in among all of you and share about this stuff. These were my deepest, darkest secrets. These things kept me wrapped so tight most of my life that I felt like a ticking time bomb. And now I just tell them. I tell them because it's the only way to get an infection out is to boil it out, to learn. And each time I tell it, I get less ashamed of it. Each time you tell your truth, you get less ashamed of it because the shame should not be there anyway. Remember, it is our uniqueness that makes us divine. It is our uniqueness that makes us divine. Every time we've caught ourselves in pursuit of what society's blueprint is for us, we get deeper and deeper disconnected from ourselves. And what happens then is active addiction, relapse. Coming back home to you means looking yourself in the mirror and saying, yep, all that is me. And I have two choices right now. I can continue in this world that will eventually just destroy me from the inside out, or I can turn all of this around and let it become my way out. And so remember, the way becomes what used to stand in front of you. And so, wow. I love this. I love all of you. Hey, Pam V, I can see you. Pamela Topchin, Katrina Hayes, Mary Huffman, Joni Faulkner, Joshua Sanders, what's up? 31119, amazing. Christine Williams, Leela Arnold. Wow. Wow, so many beautiful people here. I love you guys. You've been with me for a while, and I appreciate you so much. Chrissy, Tasha. I'm so grateful to see you. Sarah Jane, Janet, Nick. Sarah Jane, you are amazing. My cousin, my beautiful friend, and I love this kid, Hunter Thome. Listen, guys, when you do this, it affects your family, and addiction ran in our family, and here we stand. The ones that people questioned would survive and thrive. And we're the ones probably doing the best out of all of them because we're the realest out of everyone. So I tell you, you never know how what you do today is going to affect somebody else in your life. So if you feel it, do it. If you feel it, do it. Oh, that might be all I can see. Sandy Wheeler, so good to see you. So many amazing faces. Jason Routine from the team. Brett, I love you so much. Kim Bellis, love you. Everybody here, man, I love you guys. Thank you so much for joining me for this long-winded segment. I'm going to be back next week for part 2, so make sure you come back next week for part 2. This is when it starts really getting good. This is when I start building a big platform, and then I got to get, well, I'm not going to tell you what it is. Just show up next week, same time, same place. And listen, I told you, if you stuck around, I would give you this amazing gift. I'm giving it to you. I'm taking credit for it. I'm giving you this amazing gift from Pamela Topchin. What she can give you through Breakthrough Hypnotherapy is this amazing free full session of hypnotherapy. And that's just when it's not a sideshow. It's when we put the conscious thinking mind to sleep, kind of. You're not asleep, but basically, you just move that out of the way and speak directly to the inside of you. To me, it's like a fast track. It's prayer to me, and it's like a fast track to healing. So she is going to give the Recovery Soul Food and Recovery Revolution live audience an amazing free session. That's a free gift from her. So you get the free consultation session, and your free full session. So just go there, contact her, mention Recovery Soul Food, and take her up on that amazing, amazing gift. And remember, follow us, TikTok, Recovery, all that stuff. Do all the stuff. Do the things, please. I love you guys so much. Thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for letting me hang out with you. And I will see you for part 2 next week. Bye.